Hello and welcome back to Hydroponics Daily, your go-to podcast for everything soilless cultivation. I'm your host, Dr. Russell Sharp, and today we're talking about grow tents. So not relevant if you're growing in a greenhouse or a polytunnel. We're particularly interested in the material that grow tents and grow rooms, indoor grow rooms, are made of. Particularly going to look at their reflectiveness and the colour and some of the parameters and variables are counterintuitive. So some of the things you think would be the optimum for grow tent and grow room design is actually the opposite, or certainly not the opposite, but not what you think would be the best. And then finally, I'm going to go on to what I am using for the interior of our new grow room at Utrema HQ, and it's a material and a colour that has never been used for a grow room before. And we're going to do that for a reason that I've only just found out about, and I'll explain more at the end. So very, very interesting. It will be a one-of-its-kind grow room, so stay tuned to the very end. So obviously you can have a grow tent that you put in a room or an area, or you can actually convert the whole room itself into a grow room. And there are advantages and disadvantages of both situations. Grow tents don't look as cool as a grow room on its own. However, grow tents are better for sort of retrofitting a domestic situation or a room that's already, it might potentially be used for different uses in the future. And you can hang things off off the frame, and you can exclude pest and disease. That's one of the best reasons for using a grow tent. Whereas a grow room, you maximize the space, but you potentially also have to have a way of excluding pests and diseases. Now, most grow tents are black. You do get some, what look like they're white or cream coloured on the websites, but actually often like a light brown when you see them in real life. Most grow tents are thick woven polyester, and they're black on the outside, and that's to prevent light getting in. So they're rated from 600D to 2000D for light tightness and durability. I have no idea what the D stands for. It's a capital D. If you know, let me know. I'm not that bothered, to be honest, though. Basically, a good grow light will keep all the light out, and it will have vents to keep pests out and maybe mesh. Some of the good grow tents let themselves down by not being completely sealed and have Velcro like home box. I really like the colour of the home boxes. I like the interior of the home boxes, but they let themselves down by having Velcro so that pests and diseases can get in. On the inside of a grow tent, that's where the magic happens. They have normally metallized PET film, or Mylar. You'll often hear it referred to as Mylar, with a diamond emboss. Now, the diamond is there to spread the light so that you don't get hot spots and light spot densities, and so you have a more even growing system. So in grow rooms, uniformity of light is very important. So the premium ones will have a diamond Mylar. Brands like Gorilla, AC Infinity, Bud Box will have a higher. The more expensive, the more reflective the interior is. Now, you might think, the optimum would be a mirror. Like, just have a grow room that is mirrored. And then, because that you think would reflect the most amount of light. And then secondly, you might think, well, a grow room with silver or like aluminium foil would be the best option because that would reflect lots of light. However, that's not always the case, and not all materials are the same. So let's break it down. Reflective silver, in inverted commas, or aluminiumized PET or Mylar. It's not silver because it's not made of the element silver. How reflective are they? Well, they use vacuum deposited aluminium on a clear film that's very reflective. So 85 to 95% of the light will be reflected. It depends on the thickness, the amount of how thick the layer is, the surface finish. So you could get vendors quoting 90 to 97%, but whether there's lab data to back that up, it's so 80 to 90% reflective tracks with a lot of research. It's almost mirror-like, but it can create hot spots. That's why they use the diamonds in there to create waves and crinkles, and so you don't get hot spots on your plants. Less important now that you've got LED lights that are coming from a much larger area of light, whereas before it was a sodium lamp or a high pressure light, and that was coming from one spot, whereas now the LEDs are much larger. So very high reflective, they're standard and intense, they're easy to wipe and clean. The disadvantage is that dust can degrade the performance, and the main disadvantage is they don't look as good as white lined tents and white lined grow rooms. And if you're taking pictures in your grow room and you want to impress people, maybe whether that's customers or investors or fellow growers, ego is a big thing amongst growers, then a white one just looks better for taking photos. Silver looks a bit amateur hour. It looks a bit like you're growing illegal crops in your loft sort of thing. So often you might choose reflective white, but can reflective white be as reflective as silver? Surely not. Well, you can, in a grow room, you can use sort of architectural matte white paint that uses titanium dioxide pigment, and that delivers 85 to 88% reflectance, which is across the visible spectrum where plants photosynthesize, which is near enough the same as the aluminium, in inverted commas, silver. So, and some specialist lab whites can hit into the 90s. So you can get right up there, similar to what you would with the aluminium reflective one. The other advantage is that because it's matte, and it's you're not going to get any hot spots reflecting, concentrating on the leaves. So that's one option. You can buy premium white films as well that you can clad a grow room in, and they can have reflectance of up to 94%. Some of the brands there, Orca Grow Film, 94%, very high diffusion as well. So most grow rooms, grow tents will be metallized PET, the aluminium ones, but you will be able to get white ones. As I said, Homebox have them. I think Budbox Pro do white reflective as well. So when I'm buying a new grow tent, I always go for white if it's a grow tent. Other options you could look at, there's some Panda Film, which is another trade name, durable, washable, and they quote around 90% reflective. Foilon, which is a tough and easy to clean version, quoted at 99 to 95% with less creasing. That's a premium choice for longevity. Diamond, where else have we got? Rigid white panels. You could actually go for panels rather than film, paint. Advantages of panels would be that the larger grow rooms, you could make it look more like a fruit prep room. I don't know what the other options are. Maybe heat insulation or heat exclusion from panels, perhaps. I've talked about mirrors and kitchen foil, the sort of DIY you'd find on Reddit sort of things. They're not good because they will exaggerate hotspots and their reflectiveness is not as good as you would think. Don't judge the human eye as being the indicative of what is good at reflective and light levels, especially because the human eye is optimized to green light. And so whether it reflects as much in red light and blue light, your eye is terrible at judging and your eye will adapt to the current lighting conditions. So you always need to use a proper light sensor to measure any sort of light variable. In the future, we might start to see nanotechnology being used to modify the lighting in a grow room or on the outside of a grow room. A really premium grow tent could use specialist nano pigments to exclude light, or nano pigments that reflect light even more. So you could potentially get above 95%. And there's some options if people were prepared to pay for it. People would look at developing novel technology that could be used in grow tents to reflect even more light if it's something that was looked for and it was a premium. So electricity costs are one of the biggest costs of growing hydroponically. And so if you can reduce your electricity costs, then you could potentially make growing indoors a lot more profitable. And that is what everyone's looking for. Now on to the new Utrema grow room and what we're going to be cladding it with. Now, it's a grow room, it's not a grow tent, and I wanted to use it a lot for recording podcasts and for recording videos, so particularly microgreens. So I wanted something that we could showcase the plants with and we could record and myself and my colleagues could be in and around and would make really good YouTube videos. So I was thinking, well, we need a white background. Well, because at the moment we've got in the room, it's magnolia, boring office coloured walls. And so I was thinking, well, we need to go white. And then my wife said, have you actually researched what's the best colour for filming in on YouTube videos? And it turns out that the best colours, when you think about everything with YouTube, you always talk about getting the lighting right. You think, well, white light must be great because that reflects loads of light. Turns out you want your walls to be pretty as dark as possible, like navy blue or dark grey. They don't recommend black because you have to actually, it's really depressing to operate in a studio that is really black. So I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about, growing these high value crops. And then I thought about Michelin star restaurants and how they have, if you've ever been to a Michelin star restaurant or Michelin recommended restaurant, they always have a plaque, a maroon red plaque outside. And then I thought, oh, maybe that's a good colour for a YouTube. And I thought they would contrast really well with the green because they are opposites, aren't they? Spectrally red and green, they're opposite ends of the colour spectrum. And so they bounce off each other and make the other one more vivid. So I thought a grow room that's really dark, a dark red, it would be really good for filming YouTube videos with plants in. So I've bought a big tub of really dark red matte paint, and I've been I haven't been painting. My wife has been painting our new grow room on the weekend, this colour, and it looks very dramatic. She said she wouldn't want to work in there, but I think it will make really good YouTube videos. It will not reflect light. So the LED lights, the grow lights that are in there will have to work harder, but hopefully it will make some eye-catching, really good videos. And that's really the aim of it, because we're going to be using it for R&D and marketing purposes. So it has to do both functions. And so hopefully as well, the beauty of having apparently dark coloured lights is that they don't reflect on you, and so you don't look shiny. My big 6 head, I haven't got a 4 head, got a 6 head, won't be as shiny and look like a baldy nut. I'll look very handsome in my maroon coloured grow room. So let me know what you think when the videos finally go up. Might have to repaint the room eventually, I think, because I don't think our landlord will be very happy with us leaving it in a maroon red state either. I don't know anyone else who's got a maroon red grow room. I think it will be a one of its kind. And who knows, maybe the red to far red ratio will be improved and the plants will grow better. We haven't talked about red to far red ratios yet on Hydroponics Daily. It is a key environmental variable that affects plant growth. So I think we might talk about it next. I'll check whether we have talked about it yet, but if we haven't, that could be a good topic for tomorrow's episode. In the meantime, thank you very much for listening. Thanks to everyone who has done an Apple Podcast review. It's really helping us bump up the charts. And if you haven't yet, please do so. It means a lot to me because it means we can promote hydroponics and get hydroponics in the top 10 of the gardening podcasts on Apple. And then once we do that, then there'll be loads more interest in hydroponics, and hopefully we can get the sector back to where it was a few years ago. Thank you very much for listening. Until tomorrow, goodbye.